rooting before expansion, and sacred alchemy, especially fire alchemy at the core, such powerful elements of today's full moon, blue moon, at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. Thank you so much for watching my channel. I'm Jennifer Ellen Breach, Western astrological intuitive, energetic healer, visionary intuitive, celebrant, ceremonialist, poet, musician, all that good stuff. I'm a Sag myself, so I'm very much an interdimensionally attuned adventurer, and it's so good to have you along to talk about what I'm experiencing as a really interesting synergy of energies at today's full moon. So a couple of things that I'd like to mention. First of all, just a little bit of housekeeping. I've been off of YouTube and social media for a little bit, had a bit of a health setback a couple of weeks ago at the Taurus new moon, like clockwork. Some things, I will say, divinely fell apart to what seems to be like a rebuild, things coming back together in a way that is much more cohesive and makes more sense in my own life. But I've been off of here for a while, and so it's really nice to be back recording. And as I mentioned, this is a blue moon, full moon. So what exactly is a blue moon? So it's the second full moon in a calendar month. Now, we could say astrologically, it doesn't really have that much of an impact. It's more a cultural, social idea, like a folk idea that we have, like, oh, that must be significant. So if we just look at this as a standalone event, we're looking at the chart, a blue moon really doesn't feed into the delineation that we're doing as astrologers from that perspective of looking at what this full moon is all about at the most fundamental level. However, I do think that it is a powerful moment if we choose to say, oh, well, full moons are pretty magical and they bring all this blooming and illumination and catharsis and release. So think about what maybe that means for you, right? There's someone who I really like as a gardener. His name is Paul Avellino. He's on Facebook, and I forget if he's got other sites or not, but check him out on Facebook. He had a cool little post about the blue moon, something about is for people who believe in second chances, right? Second chances for magic or change and becoming more aware of Earth and nature around us. So take that as you will. Secondly, we are in a very long void of course moon. So the moon went void this morning at 9:21 a.m. and it's going to continue being void of course through the rest of today and almost all day tomorrow until 9:19 p.m. These are Eastern times that I'm giving. So void of course moon, for those of you who are aware, it's not a good time to start something new, sign a contract, make a really big decision. However, it is a good time to do those things if, let's say, there's an agreement that you feel pressured to sign or get into that you really aren't interested. You don't want it to amount to much. You're going to get some mosquito swishing and swatting in this. I apologize for any necessary violence in advance. I've been the UP of Michigan, and it is a little wild out here. We love it. We love it that way. So it's a good time to sign something like that or do a job interview for something like that, especially if you're like, yeah, I'm not crazy about this idea. The things that we do or enact or get the ball rolling when the moon is void, of course, they tend to not amount to a whole lot. So it's a good time to turn in your taxes, right? You want to evade, like go under the radar. You want things to just be, chill. It's very common, not to go on a total diatribe, but it's really common that people, let's say they take a job offer or do a job interview when the moon is void, of course. Handful of months later, maybe, somebody gets pregnant and they're on maternity leave now, or they let the job go, or some other circumstantial thing happens, or sometimes a purchase will kind of amount to nothing. It's a bit of a dud. Or one of my favorite void of course moon stories, there was this pair of shoes that I bought once, and I remembered, oh, it's a void moon, maybe I shouldn't buy these shoes. They were totally not my typical style, and they didn't look that quality to me, but I have to tell you, they ended up being my favorite pair of shoes for about 4 or 5 years. So trust your instinct. What is it a good time to do when the moon is void? Well, when the moon is void in Sagittarius, it is an excellent time to really let that sense of adventure carry you on the currents where it will. If you can go with, a knowledge of where you are and, like a map and provisions, of course. It's a great day to go wander, go explore, like go in the woods, go in nature, do some kind of inner sojourn, go on a spiritual journey, listen to podcasts about ancient Egypt, or my favorite, again, Sag hashtags, the Amateur Traveler podcast, Chris Christensen. I absolutely love the Amateur Traveler podcast. So you can go on virtual trips like that anytime you want. Start planning some other trip. Explore religion, philosophy. Goof around. Sagittarius, like, we have an awesome sense of humor, even if other people don't understand it. So just have fun, laugh, live, go where the spirit of spontaneity takes you. Okay, we are very spontaneous creatures. Next, I want to talk a little bit about something called a lunar gestation cycle. Just a bit. I actually want to do a video about lunar gestation cycles coming up. That is it's like a 2.25 year cycle, give or take. Whenever there's a new moon, there's a seed that's planted for the next 2.25 years about. And so that lays the groundwork for this whole new cycle where every 9 months there's a new manifestation, and it would mirror that of the monthly moon phases. So at that first point, we have the new moon. 9 months later, it would be akin to the opening square or the first quarter moon. There's some kind of crisis in action, something we have to do to manifest some kind of change. And then after that, 18 months marker, we have the full moon. And that is where we have arrived at today with a lunar gestation cycle that began on December 1st of 2024. Now, again, this is in my last video draft. ADD brain. I go off and I feel like, when I get on here and film videos, I'm like this much responsible for what I say. The ADD brain and some channeling takes over. Apologize. Thanks for sticking in there with me. The point that we're at today is the full moon period for the seed that was planted at the new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st of 2024. Now, when I thought about that, because it's on my first house, Uranus, abrupt, quick change, total fork in the road, you didn't see it coming, all of that, it is like clockwork for me. Again, inspiration for a little video or a little series. So, especially if you have points and planets around 9 degrees of Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, the mutable signs, think about what you were doing on and around then, and see if that tracks for you, if there was some kind of a new beginning or a fresh start. Lastly, before I get into talking more about this full moon in particular, I wanted to mention that the moon is currently in a position called apogee. So apogee is when the moon is at its farthest point from Earth. And it really is significant, the position of the moon in relation to Earth and the way that we're experiencing the energies. Now, some people would say that when it's at perigee, we feel that more because it's closer, and that we might feel the effects of an apogee full moon less. However, we have to take all the other things that are happening at whatever part of the moon phase we're in as we're moving through this, regardless of where the moon is at, near or far. And Sagittarius is the sign of all things very far away, like galactic, intergalactic, multiversal, right? So I resonate with that quite a bit. And some things that I have going on, like downloading transmissions from like way out, like places, like worlds and realms that I am really, really connected to outside of our universe even. I've had a lot of movement and shift in the last 12 hours with messages coming in from that in my own up level. So I think that apogee is actually really apropos for this, because Sag is about all these things far away and foreign and these quests, right? So I feel like there's some kind of resonance there. But maybe that's just a Sag waffle. And maybe that's why you're here. You enjoy that. Maybe you're like, oh my God, just tell me about the full moon. Well, guess what? I'm going to. So without further ado, let's talk about this theme of rooting before expansion and this sacred alchemy, especially this fire alchemy that's going on. So Sag is a very spontaneous sign. It's one of the 3 fire signs. It's mutable. So it likes to gather all this wisdom, this big picture, go on all these quests and adventures within, without, go where the wind takes you, right? Like, ask all these big questions about religion, philosophy. Why are we here? What's over that hill? Oh, no, like, I'll be happy when I get to that mountaintop over there, right? So as a Sag, I think I'm pretty qualified to say that we have a hard time being grounded in the moment sometimes in a healthy way. And it's always about what's out there, right? Sometimes we really have to dial it back and come back to the immediate of what is happening here and now. Don't get me wrong. Sag will launch those arrows flying. We can seem super flaky because we follow those sacred currents, right? And every sign has its imbalances, but we have so much passion and we follow this sacred current wherever it takes us. And there's really so much beauty in that, right? Like, somebody needs to be the pioneer, the quester, the vision quester, right? And bring back the knowledge to the village. However, it really seems to me that at this time, because, and I'm going to go here and come back to this idea of sacred alchemy in a bit because it's just where the wind is taking me right now, is Mars is at 9 degrees of Taurus. And it is exactly in conjunct the moon. Now, what's an inconjunct? What does that mean? Well, first of all, we have to understand that Taurus and Sagittarius, even though there's really feral, like a certain kind of feral primal energy with both of these signs, right? Sag is, it's like the centaur, right? Half man, half beast. And Taurus is the bull, right? So there can be a major earth connection and sense of a certain kind of adventurous spirit with both of them, or a deep, connection to the wilds in whatever way. However, Sagittarius is very restless and, again, very spontaneous. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So the fixed earth signs are all about anchoring something in. It's about, this fixed earth sign is about rooting something in, right? And so it's about building something, slow crafting. Think about people who work with their hands, or they're building sheds, like builders, the really earthy types. They're slower to change, right? These people can be very resistant to change. I'm thinking about my late stepdad, who was a very Taurus, who also had a Sagittarius moon, who was very much this way, right? So we had a lot of things in common, and at the same time, like, we could not have been more different, right? We just could not have been. And there was a lot of growth there. And that's the same kind of energy and opportunity that we have now, where Mars rules the sign of Aries. So before I go there, let me back up a bit. An inconjunct is an angle that planets are forming to one another, where there's a need for incremental adjustment. There's a need for tweaking something in some way, shape, or form. So, think about like turning the sail on a ship, just that little bit. And the analogy has often been made by other astrologers, can't think of names right now, but think about when you adjust the sail that much, over time, you end up like you're on a completely different trajectory, right? Think about a sculptor, somebody who works with clay, or an artist, a creator of any type, where, you do a little bit, you draft it, you create your core shape, your core vessel, right? You go away, you let it sit, then you come back. Now it's time for the next layer, you're sculpting, you're tweaking, you're adding color. That's the inconjunct right there. Okay, and it can be a frustrating energy to work with because it requires patience. It requires a lot of mindfulness and a lot of just coming back to something that maybe you thought was done, or I'm so tired of dealing with this, right? But this is the creative process, right? It's like some things just take time. Think about the formation of the earth, anything that's really worth building long term. Think about gardening, right? Think about growing things. So this planet, Mars, forming this inconjunct from Taurus to the Sag moon, it's really calling us to the slow and steady energy, right? Like we have to really put down some kind of roots with either new skills that we're acquiring to achieve some kind of goal. We have to maybe go a little bit slower in our lives so we have the mindfulness and inner sense of anchoring and rooting to be able to then expand out, right? Like we've got to have a certain sense of foundation. Maybe it's a daily meditation practice. Maybe we have to commit to something, right? Sag often does not like to commit to things, right? Again, we're free spirits. We just go. So this requires a certain kind of commitment energy for things that are going to be slower going. Why else is this significant? Well, there's an entire transiting stellium. So stellium is a group of planets, a whole group of planets in a sign or a certain section of a chart called a house. So we have a whole transiting stellium in Aries that is forming this aspect called a trine that basically is like the gates are off, the energy is on skates, it's a wide open flow. Go for it, right? Just so I don't forget. These planets forming this trine, we might as well throw Neptune in there at 4 degrees, even though it's a little bit out of range. So really, we could say Neptune, but Vesta, the goddess asteroid of devotion, commitment, passion, holy flame. You've got Pallas Athena, this warrior goddess of strategy, and you've got Saturn at 12 degrees there. So you have asteroids that some people say, well, they're minor. Yeah, but they're powerful fine-tuners. They're really, I don't know. I work with asteroids as much as I can because I think they're really amazing planetary bodies that help to round out the story. They give us more details. So when I went into meditation today, which I'll often go into meditation at this stage of, practicing astrology, or do conscious channeling. When I went into a meditation about this morning, Vesta came forward first, and she was in the form of a maiden. Now, if you understand the Vestal traditions, like the Vestal priestesses in ancient Rome, and the tradition goes back farther than that, but they were the keepers of the holy flame and tending to the hearth and home. And so that's where we come up with this idea of devotion. It's also, there's the Virgo connection of purification and sovereignty onto oneself. Vestal virgins, right? So not necessarily a physical virgin, right, in that sense, but sovereign onto yourself, self-purification, making ourselves whole, being in charge of our own destiny. What are we devoting ourselves to with our holy flame and our passions and our callings? And devotion, again, takes time, patience, and sometimes, sacrifice, a lot of mindfulness, a lot of attentiveness and care and courage to do that. So this maiden embodying Vesta came forward, and I saw her light a white fire it looked kind of like an outdoor fire pit, but it really felt more like the base of a cauldron, right? And it was this swirling white flame that just went and went. And then she put a lid on it. She did this. Like, don't touch it. Leave it, okay? And then she took the lid off again, right? And then Pallas, embodiment of Pallas, this strategic warrior goddess, mental prowess, sprang from the head of Zeus in the stories, how she was born. She came forward. I asked, what's your message? She was breathing fire. Honest to goddess. She was breathing fire. And that's another piece of this, right? Is the strategy. What's our strategy for going forward for everything that's being illuminated, that we're realizing we have to do next, or the things that are coming to fruition? What do we have to do in the next phase of the journey? Bring your passion, bring your courage, just be bold and go for it. Saturn here is the slow burn, right? So Saturn in Aries trying to this. Saturn, patience, the long haul, right? So think about it. This sacred fire alchemy, and again, each time I would see these visions, it was the lid back on it. Walk away. Do what you can. Now, let it sit. And go chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Very Mars in Taurus. So Mars, again, this is how it links. Mars rules the sign of Aries. Neptune, which brings in this incredible spiritual aspect, right? I don't want to forget about that, even though it's a bit out of range. So the spiritual, like the vision aspect, the service, the compassion, the higher visions for humanity and ourselves, and intuitive messages, and feeling more at one with the all of life, feeling sacred callings, right? Higher artistic callings, whatever that means for you, finding your own way spiritually, religiously, all of that. There's a dog at the window inside. Speaking of wild things, all of this is now ruled by Mars and Taurus. So we have this incredible earthy quality at the moment. Again, chop wood, carry water. In addition to that, where is Jupiter? It's like, where's Waldo? Where's Jupiter? Jupiter's the ruling sign of Sagittarius. That's why I say this, because wherever the ruling planet of a full or new moon is, that really brings in more themes. It's like a very like core seeding and coloration of what we're experiencing. So Jupiter is at 23 degrees of Cancer. Cancer is very much the hearth, the home, the domestic. Sound familiar? Didn't we just talk about hearth and home and holy flame and some of that with Vesta? So we have Jupiter there. So it really brings those themes in of like your homeland, home turf, home nation, country, protection, like mother energy, divine feminine, goddess, children, nurturance of self and other, homemaker kind of stuff, regardless of gender identity and any of these other things. It's that sacred feminine and the self-loving care and nurturance. And Venus is also there in Cancer right now, moving into an exact conjunction with the asteroid of health, wellness, and hygiene, Hygeia. So there's so much going on with this Cancerian energy right now. So think about it. You have Mars and Taurus. You have this Cancerian energy. All of what's required for growth and seeding new life in any kind of way. So this is, I feel like, this beautiful mix of energy where we can have all these visions and we can want to expand out. And I would also say, before I get into that other point I'm about to make, that, oh, hold up, it's gone. So I have no idea where that left off, so I'll pick up here. That's what it was. We need to celebrate all the expansion that's happened in our lives, and especially from that December 1st of 2024 point. Really think about how far you've come since then. Celebrate yourself and honor your growth. Because Jupiter is all about learning. It's like higher learning and wisdom, and it doesn't always feel good, right? It can feel really stressful and uncomfortable to step outside of your comfort zone. But that's exactly what Jupiter calls us to do, is to expand. And so congratulate yourself, celebrate it, honor it, and then know that wherever you are right now, that this is being illuminated for you, that the next phase of growth will require some kind of rooting. For me, this has to do with literally like the pseudo homestead that my family and I are living on, and how we are for the first time in earnest planting gardens, like herbs and flowers and berry bushes. We planted fruit trees this year, and it's the daily tending to these things. I've just never done this a day in my life besides, like houseplants. Okay. And for me, right, wanderluster, like this is a big commitment to do this, but I also recognize that it's so important to have that home foundation, to have roots, to put down roots physically, metaphorically. So this is an amazing time while those alchemical magical fires are burning. And I would encourage you to go into some kind of meditation and connect with that Juju, because it was awesome to see it and to feel it. It's also a great time, before I forget, for any kind of purifying or cathartic fire rituals, right? Like fire releasing, writing something on a piece of paper and burn it, and just like gazing into flames as a form of scrying, even just light a candle if you can't do a full fire, or just do whatever resonates, right? It's very Goddess Bridget energy with the holy flame and the wells, right? The flame and that the power of the sun and the heat and the telluric currents in the earth that really give way to that life, where life can rise up from the soil. But there's also the wells and the water and the nurturance and the magic of the soil and all these things. So root to expand. Go with that sacred alchemy while those sacred fires are burning, while those coals or that wood is turning into embers, to work your magic with it. Chop wood, carry water, keep your vision, don't lose sight of it, celebrate how far you've come. I would love to know what's coming up for you at this Sagittarius full moon. So leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments. I would love to hear. Would love to hear. So if you at all feel like you want to learn more about what I do astrologically, any of the other things that I offer, you can visit my website, jenniferellenbreege.com. There's well, it's not a live link, but you can click on it in the comments, of course, and on the home page. Is that what they call it on YouTube? The home page? I don't even know. I'm so new. I am always available for one-on-one astrology consultations. And the way that I work is really, it isn't just analysis of what's on the page here, right? Whoo, look at that. So, of course, I'm using this as a springboard to understand and really go deep, but I'm relying on conscious channeling and intuitive guidance and synchronicity just as much in those sessions. So I approach this from an evolutionary and holistic perspective when I do this work with people, as in, these are all catalysts for our growth. Yes, we have our core template, which is shown in the birth chart, and within that we have limitless capacity to expand out and become whatever it is we feel called to become. So it's the mindset of not, why is this happening to me, if it's a challenge, but why is this happening for me? So in these sessions, I always approach it from that perspective. And I always come at it from the viewpoint of, oh, how can we shift the energy at the core of any challenges that you're having? So I don't always do this with people. Sometimes people just want to know what their chart's about. Sometimes, and more often than not, people say, I really want to understand this and I really am ready for change. So that's when I'll start working with the issue clearing energetically, the intuitive visioning work, where instead of just having the mental knowledge piece, which is very powerful, it's crucial to have that sometimes for shifting, right? Self-awareness, self-love, and honoring. It gets the energy at the core of the issue moving in a way that knowledge on its own does not. So that conscious channeling, other forms of rite of passage ceremony, I channel a goddess Bridget, healing energy. I'm going to be talking much more about all of that in the coming weeks, as well as sharing more about the wedding celebrancy work that I do and other astrological educational videos and content. Would love for you to like and subscribe if you find this valuable. Have an amazing full moon experience. Many blessings. Take good care.